So first video, lads, we're going to look at the general formation from Sunday, playing a 4-4-2. As you can see on the board at the moment is the formation from kickoff, so how we would generally set up. Maybe the wingers would be a little bit further forward. But generally that's your 4-4-2 formation. I want to quickly go over something really basic, but I'll explain why as we do it. Ultimately, from a tactical point of view, we fell down on quite a few fronts. We talked about pressing from the back, pressing when we're attacking, and composing ourselves in the middle. I'll quickly go over all three in different videos. But in this one, I just want to talk about the actual formation. So going forward, the number 9 and the number 10 should have stayed quite close together, even if their initial position. So if the number 9 has pulled themselves wide to try and create space in here to then make that run. But the 9 and 10 should be looking to link up all the time. Quite often what was happening is that the 10 would be coming either too far here, or that both strikers would be playing almost like a number 9. So we would have two flat strikers like this, and then ultimately nobody in this space here. The other thing that happened, especially in the second half, is that the number 9 became a false 9, and then we had a 10. So the false 9 is basically coming up here, away from play. The number 10 sitting here, so the ball comes over, the number 10 wins the flick on. There was nobody there to receive the ball. If the number 10 receives the ball into feet, the number 9 is out of position at that point to then make the most of it. If they make a deep run, fine, but that didn't happen because sometimes the number 9 was over here, down here, over here, but not where they should be, which is playing close off the number 10, or vice versa if they want to rotate roles. However, that wasn't happening. We weren't rotating roles, we weren't sticking close together, and ultimately that's why we weren't creating anything down the centre of the pitch, because our strikers weren't as a partnership. They were individuals. The number 10 in particular, Ben Hammersley, did his job really quite well. But that number 9, we just weren't effective enough in terms of winning the second ball from the flick on, or achieving that space for us to then be able to get in behind the defence. If the defence has dropped off, then obviously you can play that false 9 then, because the defence has dropped, the space is in front. Number 10 wins the ball. 9 can then come away from the defender, receive the ball here, the 10 can go on. Again, just didn't happen. We just didn't have that partnership. In the midfield, the wide players were getting forward. The first half was more effective than the second. The wide players were getting forward, but then if we lost the ball, we weren't pressing as a team, so the wide players weren't coming in to press and win that ball back early. And when the press failed, we were then walking back to get back into position, which put our two centre mids completely at risk every single time. Even when we did get back into this position here, we were getting back in straight lines. So our wide players were staying wide out here, rather than coming inside to make it so that we've got 4 centre mids, 4 central midfielders, sacrificing the space out here so that we can allow them to pass into those spaces and then close the ball and close the gap on those players. Okay, so in that midfield, we were defending too much in straight lines. And the same could be said for the defence. As the defence have come up, ultimately the first goal that came in the game was because we didn't back off early enough. Ultimately, if this press fails down here, or there's a player who's got the ball under no pressure whatsoever, then there's absolutely no need for us to stay high on the line here. Ultimately, it's just we're a risk to ourselves. So we need to be slowly, just gradually. You know, if it's down here still, if it's in this area, players under no pressure, if they hit a long ball, it's still only going to come to about here. So we can gradually go back. If the ball then gets played into the midfield here, then we have to put our foot down and get back properly. So get back going round about here. So we don't need to go all the way back onto our 18-yard line, but we want to limit the space in behind, but just enough that the midfield can keep up and close that space in front as well. Again, if you've got a false 9, that false 9 would normally be sitting around here. And what you want is you want 4 players around that false 9 at any given time, screening the passes in from the centre of the pitch, or if it goes out wide here, able to screen the pass into the 9 from there. Okay, let's take him back off. So the other issue was, as we were backing up as a defensive 4, is that we're backing up in straight lines again. So we're going back like this. Ultimately, it wasn't until we got to about the 18-yard line that we started to narrow our defence. We should be narrowing as we go. So this is what I wanted to show you. So the midfield and the defence technically do the same thing in terms of fanning out and fanning in. If we're in possession of the ball and we're attacking down here, then the defence is wide all the way across the pitch. Okay, so the fullbacks are probably up here, but just for the sake of showing you this, we're wide all the way across the pitch. As that press or as that attack fails, if we're in the press, we're trying to win the ball back, then ultimately, or we can stay in that position. If the press fails and they're still down here, what starts to happen is the defenders give the shout. The centre-backs normally give the shout to just drop off a couple of yards. So these fullbacks will come in ever so slightly to just tighten up a little bit, because that striker, that number 9, is there. No doubt, and, you know, especially with the teams we're playing at the moment, they'll have a couple of players here as well. Okay, so we just want to narrow that area a little bit so that if they have got a powerful kick, a big long ball, or if the long ball comes forward, we go to head of the ball, we go to win possession, and we fuck up. We're close enough that we can cover each other. Okay, that's all it's about. If that press then completely fails and it gets into the midfield, we back up completely. But as we back up, we fan in. So these defenders are coming inside. And we've got basically 4 centre-backs. Okay, we're sacrificing out here. We're sacrificing these channels. That player goes out there. That player goes there. The striker's there. As the ball gets played from the midfield in here, we want the ball to go out here or to go out here. We want them to pick a side. Once they've picked a side, they limit their options in terms of where they can pass and where they can play. If you allow them to play through the middle, then they can play it anywhere they like. They've got the whole pitch to play with. We want to narrow that pitch down, which means that we have to try and force the ball out wide. So as soon as he makes that pass, because he can't go down the centre, he's going to go out here or he's going to go out here. If he goes out to this play here, then ultimately the fullback's there to cover. The centre-back will cover again. The centre-back will come over. So this is the swing. So we're going about half-half all the way through. And then you've got your midfield that can do the same. And what we can do is we can press that entire area so that ultimately we can win the ball back quickly and then press out into the space out here. But it's important that we defend narrow in order to free up these channels for that pass to be made. It's basically a trap. We're trying to set for them so that they make the pass. We cover that area with players. We literally engulf them in players at the point they make that pass, and then we can play out. Let's try and keep that in mind when we're playing in future, that we want to keep the play. When we're defending, we want to keep our defensive play as narrow as possible. We don't want any space in the middle of the park. So much so, we will sacrifice those channels. That's that one. Thanks very much.